I've never done. We've realized we've never really done a rebuttal of The Daily Show.
Yeah.
Trevor Noah, and it's just there's not a whole lot there. John Oliver, I will say, the guy does some research. He kind of has a pattern, and we've been able to pin it down now. But Trevor Noah, it's almost entirely conjecture, and I think that's important when looking at claims. You can say, listen, this is my opinion, or I'm drawing some kind of conclusion or analysis based on the information at hand. But sometimes there are people out there who just don't provide you with a whole lot of information. I think that's the case here. There's really only 2 claims that we can verify, but I think it's worth examining because while the hurricane's been going on, the storm's been going on, and North Korea launched a missile over Japan, the media is still talking about
Donald Trump.
They're talking about pardoning Arpaio. Because this is what's most urgent. So Trevor Noah obviously had a bit on this, and he was upset. Let's go to his first argument.
As much as Sheriff Arpaio presented himself as anti-illegal immigrant, it turned out that he was really just anti-being a decent human being.
If you talk to law enforcement officers that have worked with this guy, they will tell you he is a thug and he's an embarrassment.
Yes. The man Trump pardoned is regarded by many as one of the worst sheriffs in America.
It's not really a claim, is it? It's like, yes, but you don't have to take. Why do you sound Middle Eastern? Yeah. You don't have to take my. I don't know how to do his accent. I don't know. It's almost like
weird.
Stephen Molyneux. It is weird to do. But don't take my word for it. Here's Joe Scarborough. Then back to me. I agree. Okay.
Good source.
So he claims that a lot of people say Arpaio is the worst sheriff in the country. You say that, and then you have people come on the show who agree with you. But if we're looking at it objectively, and I'm not defending everything that Sheriff has done here, crime dropped dramatically in Maricopa County. Here's a chart. So if you're going to look at the main litmus test for a sheriff, I don't know if you're aware of this, but a sheriff's primary duty is to reduce crime.
Really?
Yes,
Really?
I know. Law enforcement, they actually do not serve as community liaisons who are yelling hands up, don't shoot, to go out and make sure that Antifa feel as though they have a safe place. Their primary duty is to reduce crime. So I don't know. I don't know. Again, Trevor doesn't back this up at all, but he goes on to make some more, I guess, sort of they make some more unsubstantiated claims, but I will say there's some validity to this.
Arpaio has made a name for himself by forcing prisoners to live in canvas tents in triple-digit temperatures.
I already have a concentration camp. It's called Tent City.
He shackled women in labor to the bed, his aggressive use of stun guns, overcrowding in his prisons.
Prisoners there died at an alarming rate, often without any explanation given. He marched Latino prisoners into a segregated area with electric fencing.
Okay, now first off, I'm not going to defend all of these actions. Some of those, by the way, are completely unsubstantiated, and some of them have been proven where people weren't treated necessarily very well. For example, they were forced to wear pink underwear. I don't necessarily know that that's a violation of your constitutional rights, especially considering that people who are not citizens or even here legally, you're not violating an American's constitutional rights. You don't have constitutional rights if you're a terrorist or if you are an illegal migrant. That's an important delineation to make because he goes on to say, violating American civil rights. No, that's not the case. But again, I'm not defending all of his actions here, but it's important to separate the personality that you have a problem with and what he was actually being charged with, what the political witch hunt was actually about. So here's something I find interesting. Let's do an exercise here. Okay, concentration camps. That's what people were calling, and he joked about it. That was tongue-in-cheek because the media called them concentration camps. What it was he had huge camps, and yes, bunk beds stacked 3 high with illegal immigrants in his county. Okay, begs the question, why? Anyone here have an answer?
Overcrowding?
Yeah. Why do you think he would be so overcrowded with illegal immigrants that he has to put them into a camp that people dub concentration camps? He's doing his job as sheriff when he finds these people, when he encounters them, and they are here illegally and rounding them up. But the federal department, when we look at ICE, was not deporting these people. We've talked about that before. We had interviewed people on the show who've said, listen, the only difference now is that Donald Trump has said, okay, you can do your jobs and you can deport people when you find them here illegally. So this brings us to the next claim from Trevor Noah, the one that actually we can verify.
And now, Sheriff Arpaio's abuses of power didn't just hurt the inmates at his prisons, right? They also hurt the taxpayers who had to foot the bill.
During Arpaio's tenure between 1993 and 2015, cases involving Arpaio and his office totaled $142 million in legal fees, settlements, and compliance costs, according to the Arizona Republic. In fact, that includes 2 lawsuits over the wrongful deaths of prisoners and tens of millions in civil rights and discrimination suits.
Okay, so the claim is he cost taxpayers $142 million.
That's more than 141.
That's more than 140. We looked it up. Actually, the number's closer to 146.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. But here's the question. Who cost the taxpayers $142 million? The guy who was doing his job and rounding up illegal immigrants who make Americans less safe and, of course, act as a drain on the system into which legal tax-paying Americans contribute? Or the Department of Justice who went on a political witch hunt to charge him with crimes of doing his job? By the way, in that same time, these supposedly sanctuary cities who were not complying with federal law, nothing. Nothing at all. They were flagrantly disregarding the law. Nothing happened. There were no charges brought. And don't think that it wasn't just so convenient for these charges to be brought 2 weeks almost to the day before Sheriff Arpaio's re-election.
You know what I hate? They're lumping all these things together. They're not giving any objective facts. In an alarmingly high rate, they're not saying anything. He's one of the worst in the country. Is there a list of worst people in the country for sheriff? And then they're saying they spent way too much. What, it was over, 22 years?
Yeah.
And there's 2 lawsuits that you're going to say that were bad?
Yeah, 2
That's
lawsuits.
not terrible in 22 years.
And how expensive
For
do
the
you think it is
worst sheriff ever.
to fight against the Department of Justice?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you did it to yourself.
I mean, it's one of they go, oh, look, we sued him, we charged him, and look, he's fighting back. He's costing you money.
I can't believe he's not laying down for this.
You assaulted him. It's like you assaulted him.
Exactly.
Can you believe I assaulted this man and he came back and he hit me with the hospital bill?
Yeah, and they put compliance costs in there.
What is it? What is this? I fractured your skull. What was this? I want to see an itemized
need a receipt.
What was this? Was this caviar at the hospital? I call bullshit.
Can we follow us under hate speech? Is this hate speech?
It's hate speech. I think so. We can blame the 142 million. Actually, 146 million. We gave you that one.
Boom.
So now we go back to completely unsubstantiated opinions. Let's see the next one.
His agency has been accused of pulling over drivers just because they were Hispanic so they could check their immigration status and not just because of traffic violations.
Wow. Being Latino in that town must suck.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Only if you're illegal, by the way. If you look at the staffing from the same sheriff, more Latinos, I think, than any other county in the country. I think he has 2 grandkids who are a portion Latino. He has relatives. So this is not a guy who just hates people because
must hate his
of the
grandkids
color
then.
of their skin. This is a guy who hates the plight of illegal immigrants and the crime that they bring to southwestern American cities. Yeah, so, I mean, this is one deal too. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the crime, I think it's illegal immigrants have committed. Oh, yeah, there we go. We have the overlay there. 22% to 37% of all murders in the nation, while they make up 3.5% of the population. That's
their fair share.
Some call that statistically significant.
Statistically significant.
Be,
Some people would call it that. And we get really upset about racial profiling. Let me give you the truth. If you live in a southwestern town or a border town, if you live in El Paso, if you live in an area that's close to the border, and you hear about a lot of crimes committed, the police sketch artist is going to have a tough time. Okay, when you describe them, that's the reality of the situation. If there were a gang out there right now committing crimes en masse, and it was the 6'2", brown-haired, hazel-eyed gang, and I got pulled over, I said, "Officer, what seems to be the problem?" "Listen, I'm just pulling you over because you match your profile. There was another one of those senior members of the 6'2", brown-haired, hazel-eyed gang he knocked out a liquor store." I'd be like, you know what? First off, seems a little redundant for the title. Seems needlessly long.
Yeah.
But thank you, officer. I appreciate you doing your job.
It would seem that people that would have the most grievances would be the hardcore brown-eyed 6'2" criminals in that scenario.
No, they would.
Well, a big point here: illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
A lot of times they will drop that part and just say he's blaming all immigrants. No, he's targeting a specific group of people that are here illegally.
Yeah, and you know who's most aggravated with illegal Latino immigrants? People who've come here legally, who are legal Latino immigrants. Scale it back one. My mom's French-Canadian who came here legally. Guess what she can't stand? People who happen, not even hopping a wall, by the way, people who just happen to saunter on across some unprotected land in El Paso, come here, don't learn the language, even though she was French and she learned to speak English perfectly, became a tax-paying, contributing American citizen. She gets a little bit irked when someone comes over here illegally, doesn't sign the guest book, and starts committing crimes in record numbers.
There's a guest book?
So there's some people who actually have legitimate grievances. You're trying to hold up here. Look at these victims. Yeah, there are tons more actual victims that we don't want to address. Why? Because he can't buy their votes. All right, let's see next clip.
And now here's what may surprise you. All that Arpaio did, that's not why he needed a pardon. No, those were just his extracurriculars. Yeah, it turns out his full-time job is racism. You know, for a guy who's not racist, Donald Trump sure has a lot of racist friends.
By the way, I do love that this shows how paper thin his argument was beforehand, that he's like, all of that is minor. The real takeaway here is he's racist.
Because he knew a guy.
You know what surprises me there? That you still have a show.
I just find it's $146 million in taxes. Look at this cruelty. Look at, but the real problem is he has racist friends. Tells you that there wasn't really a whole lot to base that previous case on. If he were hooking people up to, electrical wires and jumper cables to their balls, that'd be the lead.
That would.
In this case, the takeaway is that he's racist. Oh, because he has some racist friends, allegedly racist friends, that makes him a racist. This is why Trevor Noah is just.
And then by extension, Donald Trump.
As bad as it gets, he is an absolute cancerous growth on the testicle that is comedy. Because he is, some people are racist, said some racist things. Therefore, it is the social justice warrior comedy to a T. He even said that there are things that we shouldn't say as comedians. He doesn't even support free speech. Okay, so if Donald Trump pardons someone who has friends who are racist, that makes him a racist. Okay, Barack Obama pardoned terrorist Oscar Lopez Rivera.
Ooh.
He pardoned tranny, treasonous traitor Bradley Manning. What is it, Chelsea Manning? Yeah. Does that make Barack Obama a tranny/traitor? Again, see, anyone can play this game, and we can do it a whole lot worse with your guys. Only we don't. We want to get to some substantiated claims. Let's see if you've got one more. Do you have one more? Do you have something we can go with?
Remember how the three branches of government are supposed to be equal? Well, convicting someone of contempt is the one and only way the judicial branch can put muscle behind its decisions. So when the President of the United States steps in and pardons someone's contempt conviction, he's essentially rendering the courts powerless.
He is incorrect. So it's not the one and only way. We talk about removing muscle from the court. Kind of like the courts removing muscle from the American citizens to bear arms. As you look with 4 votes who believed that private citizens had no right to firearm ownership whatsoever. We're talking about judicial activism. Maybe as the court removes some power from the House and Senate because they've decided to act as judicial, they've decided to simply create laws. They're not interpreting laws. They are creating laws now. This is the problem with the Supreme Court and why it was so pivotal and why you guys lost. A lot of people who didn't like President Trump voted for him just because of all the judicial activism that was occurring.
Yeah.
You can only have Sotomayor and Ginsburg for so long for people to say, all right, can you believe he's granting him a pardon? Oh, there you go. I'm kind of getting it now.
Yeah. Better late than never.
Yeah. Because you know what? That's actually one of the few executive powers expressly granted by the Constitution. I'll tell you what's not actually within its constitutional authority as far as an executive order. An individual health care mandate.
Man, not there.
That would be an example that's not there in the Constitution. I believe it's in there somewhere in the back. No, not
at all.
Not at all. Allowing the IRS to target political dissidents.
That's not there.
Well, that's
not there.
Okay.
Crap.
That's not there at all. Or even taking your money to personally hand to GM/Chrysler. Yeah, that's right. It's not under the legitimate purview of the president to take your money so that we can continue funding the Cobalt. Hey, if you like this video, subscribe by clicking the button that says subscribe. If you're not aware of it now, there's no way you're learning the internet at this point. I'm not going to help you. But this was clipped from my daily show, available exclusively to LottoWithCrowder.com/MugClub members. If you're student, military, or veteran, enter in that promo code. It's less than $6 a month, and you get daily content. No more clips, plus this hand-etched mug. Oh, when I feel it, I got a chill like on the inside.